Hello, 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 and welcome to Locked In, the soccer edition. I'm your co-host, Mr. Nee Wallace Bruce, aka NWB. You can find me on Instagram at the real NWB, and you can also find some of my work over at importantnonsense.com. Throughout the NFL season, I'll be writing up about all things IDP, the defensive side of the ball, and more. But without any further ado, I want to introduce my co-host, the one, the only, Mr. Zach Tomlinson. Zach, how you
Hello.
doing?
I'm great. I'm great. Good to be here. Really excited to get down and dirty with some footy with you. You can catch me on Twitter, Tack Zomlinson. Just rearrange the first two initials there, and then also on the website as well, posting some footy updates throughout the season. So
There we go. And as you can see, Zach is a proud Man United fan. He's
yeah,
brave
kind of
enough to
proud.
wear his jersey online. So props for doing that because I know not all United fans would do that. I'm an Arsenal fan,
Exactly.
so I know all about suffering. So don't worry about that.
Yeah.
We can suffer together this season.
We'll see. I mean, guess it depends on the definition of suffering, but yeah, probably
No,
not as joyful. What do you
yeah,
think?
I think both teams are due for a bounce back. They kind of underachieved in the 2022 season. I think when 2023 rolls around, they can both look back and say that they improved. But
Yeah.
honestly, this show is the debut show, and it's going to be a little bit of Premier League, a little bit of Bundesliga, some World Cup's going to kick in later on in the year. It's really just going to be round ball and whatever we feel like talking about. So yeah, get interactive, get involved with us at importantnonsense.com. Be sure to use the promo code nonsense over at our friends Underdog Fantasy. Leave a comment below if you like, dislike. We may or may not read it. We may or may not care, but who knows? What we want you to do is enjoy the show. And Zach, the English League is back. We had the Charity Shield, the Community Shield on Sunday. Liverpool defeated Man City 3-1. What are your thoughts on that?
I was surprised 100%. I don't imagine that will be foreshadowing of how the season's going to play out for both of those two teams. I mean, I think that they'll probably finish top two this season, but I don't really see it as much of a huge competition. I think City's going to it's not going to be pretty. I think they're going to take this one pretty significantly by like, I don't know, maybe 7 or more points or so. So I was surprised to see Liverpool win and then also win by multiple goals and like kind of be in control of that game almost the entire time.
Yeah, they did look pretty dominant in that match. Darwin Nunez seemed like he slotted in quite well, the new
Yeah.
boy from Benfica. On the flip side, Erling Haaland, he did have a pretty. It was a mixed game for him. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a big jump moving from Germany to England. What are your thoughts on his performance?
I mean, I think a lot of people would say like the first thing that comes to mind. That's where I thought you were going. He missed a bit of a sitter, as they like to say, where it was basically a wide open net and he sailed it. Um, I mean, I think I would just not read too much into that. I think this guy's going to have a monster season and a monster career in England. He doesn't not score anywhere he goes. So I think that was just a bit unlucky. It happens to everybody. It's not going to keep happening to him.
And one thing that does help him is that he's Norwegian, and Norway didn't make the World Cup, so that may
Yeah.
help in terms of having a 4 to 6 week break in terms of conditioning and whatnot. But we'll get to that
Definitely.
later on. Now, the Premier League proper starts this Friday. My team Arsenal plays Crystal Palace, so that'll be interesting in the opening match. But
Yeah.
Zach, what are your thoughts on some of the new boys that have come up? So that if you don't know, the three new teams in the Premier League this season are Nottingham Forest, Fulham, and Bournemouth. Zach, what's your take?
Yeah. I mean, I have been keeping up with not so much Bournemouth because they're just kind of they're a bit boring to me, to be honest. Nottingham Forest, I am very interested in. I know that they've signed like 12 new players already. So obviously they're not really. Sometimes when teams get promoted, it's not really a long term goal for them to stay in the Premier League. It's kind of just the evolution of building a club up into like a sustained success. So sometimes they're okay with going up and down. Fulham is a great example of a club that goes up, down, up, down, up, down. So I kind of feel like that might be more the same for Bournemouth. I think Fulham is getting to a point they've done that enough times where one of these years they're gonna go for it and try to stay up and then just not get relegated again. But I'm not sure that that's this season for them either. It seems like Nottingham Forest is kind of making a push towards staying up with all those signings. It's not very normal for a team to make that number of signings, and from what I've seen in the past.
Absolutely, and you bang on with Fulham because it's almost like they plan for. They say, okay, this is going to be an up year. We'll go to the Premier League. We'll get some TV money. We'll make a name for ourselves.
Yeah.
We'll go back down. We'll get the parachute. We'll dominate the championship. We'll get a trophy there. We'll come back up. Now, last season they were buoyed by the performance of Alexander Mitrovic, the Serbian striker. He was scoring almost a goal a game. It was ridiculous, his pace.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you compared him to when he was back in the Premier League last time, I think he is a bit slimmer. The question is whether he'll be as prolific. And also, if he is as prolific, will he stay in January? Because I have a feeling that he might score some goals for Serbia at the World Cup, and he might disappear. So if he does go, can Fulham withstand that? That's the question for me with them.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot would play into that. I know, like if you look at all the top Premier League clubs, what position does everybody need? It seems like is a striker, and that's seems to be the hardest position to find consistency at a top level like the Premier League. Finding a guy who will continuously get you goals and also stay on the pitch. And I haven't really seen a lot of him last season. I know he was absolutely crushing it, as was the rest of the team. But I do know in the past he's not really done fantastic whenever he has taken that step up. I mean, he's getting older, so we'll see. But if he's on fire, it could be one of those things. Maybe he's on fire, but Fulham is in the relegation zone. Maybe they kind of give up on the season, sell him, make that money. We'll have to see what happens for sure. It'll be interesting. I hope he catches fire and score a bunch because I'd love to see Fulham be that new like Brentford of last year, Leeds the year before that, just a team to get behind and root for. It's just kind of a Cinderella story.
Absolutely. And yeah, for me, it's him for Fulham and Dominic Solanke for Bournemouth. Those are the guys that you need them to score 10, 15 goals just to have a chance to stay up. Mm-hmm. And then in addition to the rest of the attack. But like you said with Nottingham Forest, they seem like they have put in a bit of elbow grease. They've put in the work in terms of getting the business done in the offseason. They signed one of your former players in terms of Jesse Lingard.
J-Ling.
Do you think he's going to be a key addition, or do you think he'll be peripheral to their charge to stay up this season?
I love the question. I was very curious to see where he was going to go and really what he was going to do. I think before he signed with them, he was linked to some MLS teams. And to me, as a United fan, I was catching that vibe from him that I thought he was probably eyeing the MLS because it'd be great for him to come over here, be good in the league, but also drive that brand for him, and they could also pay him quite well. So the fact that he went to join this club in this current situation for them tells me that he still wants to play football. He still wants to kind of reach his best as a player. And so I'm excited. I was not expecting that from him, but since he did it, I do see him. I think he's going to give it a go, a proper go. So we'll see. I don't know. I think he'll be good for them. Yes, he might have a very watered down impact like Christian Eriksen had for Brentford, just kind of experience in the league on a team that's not experienced in the league with players that aren't experienced, but have a bit of savviness to them and be just reliable for them. So we'll see. He's got a great opportunity. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And I have to think that it's a World Cup year, and you have to think that that's on his mind, that by staying in England, he stays in Gareth Southgate's
radar.
He stays on his radar. Exactly. I feel like he's playing for Nottingham Forest to stay in those plans potentially. He has it in him. We saw what he did at West Ham. So it's a question of just replicating that form. I do definitely think that Forest, out of the three new teams, will be the ones that stay up, but we'll get to that later on. Now, Zach, just for our audience, where are you based?
I'm out of Texas, North Texas. So it's like the McKinney area,
All right, there we go.
USA, if that needed to be mentioned. I think Texas probably sealed the deal on that one, but
Well, for everyone, I'm in Toronto. I'm a bit further north, Toronto, Canada. So we'll touch on some Canada and US national team stuff down the
that's
line as
another
well.
interesting discussion for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, just swing back to the Premier League. Let's have a look at the other half of the table, the usual suspects, the guys who we expect to be at the top when it's all said and done in April and May. So I'm talking about City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs, and your team,
I
United.
think you're
Yes, I
forgetting one. I don't know why you put
no
them
no.
last, but
I mean, you might say best to last, but I'll just say last of the
they're
last.
okay. There you go.
But yeah, take us through your thoughts on United for this season coming up.
You had to start with United then, huh? Yeah, I think so. For me, it's less interesting as it kind of has been. I mean, the top two just seem like they're locked in for me. So, but like I said, I think City's the definite winner. So it's not very interesting because I just don't see any way that they don't win unless they just get hammered by injuries or something, or World Cup just hits them really hard or something. But then I do think Liverpool would have to be favorites to be second. And then for me, it's the following four places, third through sixth. And it just depends on it could go so many different directions. I think Tottenham are really well set up to take that third spot, mainly just because their coach. I think he's probably the one of the best managers. If you exclude those top two teams, he might be the best manager left. Chelsea, I think, have taken a significant step back at this point right now. So I almost see them, they're more likely to fall outside the top six than they are to finish in the top four, in my opinion. Arsenal, I hate to say it, but if I was an Arsenal fan right now, I'd be very optimistic. I'd be very happy with how the offseason's gone, and not so much how last season ended, but I would be looking forward to this season. It's one of the youngest teams in the entire Premier League, and also one of the most talented teams. So I actually do think Arsenal will finish over United. But for United, I mean, I think it's all about how well it's all Eric Ten Hag, the new manager. I think he's a genius. I'm also extremely optimistic going into the season and really excited about the future. But for me, it's less about this season coming up and more about the next two. I think within three, it's potentially reasonable to be challenging for a title at the end of that. But this season, I would love to finish in the top four. I'm not sure that we will. It kind of depends on Ronaldo. It depends on how some of the new signings have fit in, how the team gels. We need a lot of players to be a lot better than they were last season, this season. So if Ten Hag can get the best out of those guys and get them back to where they were just 2 years ago when we finished second, I mean, we could have one hell of a season. But it's just something that only time will tell. We'll have to see.
Now, Ten Hag worked wonders at Ajax. He took a very young squad to heights that hadn't been seen for a long time for that great Dutch club. And he did it on the back of strong attack, moving the ball around. I have no issue with him doing that at United. My question to you is this, Zach. What is he going to do about your back line, your back four, and David De Gea? How is he going to address that lingering issue?
Yes, I think a big part of that, he's made two signings already. Malaysia, also from the Dutch league, so someone not on the team that he managed, but a different team, so someone he saw up close, and I trust that he trusts that player and his ability to transition to the Premier League and hit the ground running. He should be challenging for starting at left back first game. So we'll see. Maybe it takes him a little bit longer. Maybe he's just there to provide competition. Like if you got someone, right behind you on the depth chart that's pushing you every day in practice, that only makes everybody better. So, and then center back, Lisandro Martinez is a center back who he managed at Ajax. And so for me, anyone he brings over from Ajax, I already know like there's a reason he's bringing him over here. He knows he's ready to take that jump. And he knows he's like a manager on the pitch for Ten Hag. He knows how he wants to play, and he's able to do that on a high level and able to make others around him be better at playing that way as well. So the other aspect to the defense in general is, like I said, it's not – so those are the two signings. Both could be very helpful, but we have players that play at the international level that would be playing in the World Cup for their countries. So it's not a matter of talent. It's a matter of execution and being at the top of your game, which you could not really say a single player besides De Gea was last season defensively. So it's a little bit of new faces and then turning old faces back into almost new faces because they'll be like new signings, hopefully, or they just won't play.
Now, speaking of they just won't play and turning faces, can you see Ronaldo turning his face and going out the door? He demanded Champions League football in the offseason. It seems like a number of big clubs aren't wanting him as much as he wants them. Do you think that he starts and finishes the season at United?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't really know unless he was just on fire at United for the first half up till January when the transfer window comes back around. I would be surprised if he were to leave at half point. I would think if he was going to go, which I think it's not so much a matter of does he want to go, because I think he does want to go. I think he's been pretty open about that, and but like you said, it's about finding the suitors. And so for me, there's a couple places I would not want him to leave to, but I would not be completely opposed to him leaving because I don't really disagree. I mean, I think Ronaldo only has maybe 2, maybe 3 more years left to play at the highest level to where he could actually be adding another Champions League trophy to his name. Clearly, that's his main priority, and how can you blame him? He's the GOAT. Is he going to be able to do that at United in 2 to 3 years? Seems very unlikely at this point in time. So it's almost better to kind of cut the ties and let him go pursue what he's trying to get after, and let us go after what we're trying to do, and which is a bit of a rebuild, but also just a change in play style. And I don't know. I mean, Ronaldo, like I said, he's the GOAT for me, but does he fit into Ten Hag's style of play? Not sold that he does. I think we could make it work, but I'm not sure that he would be like the dream striker for Ten Hag. And so at that point, it's almost like, well, let's just rebuild, find the right person that you're looking for, add him in, and then which we're linked to a new striker I saw today. I believe it's Benjamin Sesko. So he would be, yes, let's do it. Let's get him. Let's get Ronaldo out of here. Send him to Bayern, wherever he wants to go, and then bring in this new guy. And if we don't finish in the top 4, it's okay, as long as we're playing better, more entertaining football, and we finish 5th or 6th, but we don't have any just humiliating games like we did like every other game last year, then I'd be happy with that. That'd be a successful season in my eyes. So
I must say, Zach, for a Man United fan, you're very rational. It's almost unnerving. It's refreshing. I'm not used to this.
I know,
but anyway,
it's hard to sift through reading any kind of Manchester United news. We're linked to every player, every window, but you just learn. I think you're either it's like it is the closest thing that guys have to like the reality TV shows like Desperate Housewives and like Bachelorette and things like that is probably like Premier League like fandom. And so you're either watching the drama or buying into it, or you're just numb to it at this point. You're just like, when's the game? You know what I mean?
There we go. Shout out to Arsenal Fan TV, one of the best reality shows go out there.
There we go.
Now, Zach, I'm going to take a slight tangent here because you brought up Ronaldo, trying to force his way out of the club. Do you think players have more power today than they had in previous seasons? Is it becoming more like the NBA or the NFL where players are going to their managers or their, I guess, front offices, if you will, and demanding their way out?
I think there was a case to be made about that it was heading quickly in that direction. But I do think that COVID kind of impacted, like maybe we'll see if it halted it or if it just slowed it down a little bit. But I do think like if we're still talking about Ronaldo now, I mean, he might be trying to force his way out, but he's still here. And everything that Ronaldo's camp has said, he wants to go, he wants to play Champions League football. Manchester United has said where he's not for sale. So I think maybe they're saving face that no one wants to buy him. That's all really speculation. We don't really know. But I don't know. I think it depends on the club and the player and the history and finding the right fits. I don't think teams are going to be sometimes in like the NBA it feels like other teams are getting robbed to make another just really to make one player happy or really just benefit one of the clubs significantly more than the other. And I don't feel like the money is there in this transfer window and the transfer market across Europe to be willing to take risks like that or to take any kind of gambles when you're talking about large amounts of transfer fees and also agent fees because a lot of players Manchester United released like seven really top level players. They didn't sell them. Paul Pogba left on a free. We didn't make any money off of that at all. And so I think is it because he wanted just free reign at picking which club he wanted to go to, or was it an inability for Manchester United to sell him? Not really sure. Or maybe they were just trying to hold on and trying to convince him to stay as long as they could. Yeah, not sure. I wish we had more insight to that.
Yeah, that's something that I'll monitor, I guess, towards the end of this transfer window and also January, just to see, because it has intrigued me the last couple of years. I guess, like you said, COVID has probably impacted it. But speaking of impact, let's talk about Raheem Sterling, because Chelsea intriguing. You touched on it before. You said that they have taken a step backwards, and it, you have to wonder where are the goals coming from for this team, a team that hasn't at the top for so long. They got new ownership, they got Todd Bowley and the consortium there, but yeah, I wonder where the goals are going to come from.
I think they're probably wondering that too. Honestly, they spent was it 80 million on a striker in Lukaku, and they decided not to play to his strengths at all, and tried to get him to play their style of play, which is not what he's suited for. And then they don't even try the following season. This season, they just loan him out, let him go. I mean, he's coming back, but as of right now, potentially he's coming back. But as of right now, like I just don't understand the point of that at all. And they didn't replace him with anybody. I thought Ronaldo to Chelsea was a potential. Maybe it still is. Um, Probably be a club I would not be pumped about him going to, but yeah, where are they going to score goals? And then, even the way that they do play, it's very defense first, offense second. And they lost almost their entire back line and have only begun to replace. They got Koulibaly, who was a great center back 2, 3, 4 years ago. I mean, he's older now. That wasn't a problem with Thiago Silva, who's like 40 or something. He's like 35 or something like that.
He could be 40 for all I know.
Yeah. But yeah, they need to replace. I saw that they were linked to quite a few center backs, but they've only brought in the one, and they need two more like world class center backs to be anywhere near the level that they were at last season, and they're running out of time. So as far as Sterling goes, I have never really Sterling to me has always been a player like that Holland miss in the Community Shield on Sunday. That was Sterling had one of those every game I've ever seen him play in my entire life. So he is good at getting in those positions, I guess, but he's not great for me at burying those chances. So for me, that was not necessarily a great buy from Chelsea, and I think there also says something about Manchester City and Pep Guardiola letting him go to that team in their league. I don't think they'd be super down to do that if they weren't okay with letting him go. And so you got to ask yourself, why are they okay with letting him go? Probably because maybe they think he's on a bit of a decline. I think he's still 26 years old, which blows my mind because he's been around for probably 12 years now, 10, 12 years or so. But yeah, I don't know. I don't, if I was a Chelsea fan, I would not be nearly as optimistic as I am as a United, as you should be as an Arsenal, and as any Tottenham fans out there are. I think Chelsea I'd be the least excited about between those.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess it pains me to say, but Tottenham do look like the best of the rest in terms of the top six outside of Man City and Liverpool. Antonio Conte, he's one of the premier managers in Europe, and he has a way of when he gets his guys, he's very hard to stop. So it is looking a little ominous for Arsenal fans in terms of trying to get ahead of Tottenham, but the way he's going to have Kane and Son continuing to hum along at the front, and then what he's going to do in the middle, and also at the back.
Yeah, they're looking good. I mean, there's just no way around it. They added Richarlison, who is a great player from Everton. He single-handedly kept Everton up. You could say last season. He had, I think there was a stat I heard, something about like 14 out of 25 goals he scored were like point saving or like game changing goals. Either it was a tying goal or a winning goal. So he scores clutch goal after clutch goal, and they just added that to a attacking combo of Kane and Son that is literally the best in Premier League history. I don't think anyone has scored more goals combined and assists between the two of them. And they just add the super clutch player. And then they have, like you said, midfield is so strong. Defensively, they're so strong. Just their style of play. This was the first time that he had an off season with them, so he's gonna be running them into the ground. I'm sure they're going to be one of the most fit teams going into the season. So yeah, I think I agree with you. I think they're the best of the rest, and I mean could potentially be knocking at the door at Liverpool depending on how their season goes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, if you like to get some skin in the game, I found a bet earlier today, and it is you won't like this, Zach, but too bad. It's Arsenal to finish above Man United. It is plus 100. Actually, it's plus 101. Got to include the one in this economy.
So it's pretty much even?
Yeah, plus money. So I think it's worth a shot. I might throw a few shekels at it.
A few shekels? I would say, I mean, I'm putting together a little, what kind of prediction of all 20 teams where I think they're going to finish. And like I said, the hardest, I mean, there's honestly a lot of, if you're looking at the entire standings, like it really is fire just from top to bottom. But the third through sixth is very difficult to pinpoint. You got to pick two out of those four to round out the top four. And I couldn't help myself. I went Tottenham and Arsenal. So if I were you, and this is painful for me to say, this truly hurts my body, my soul. But like I said, I think maybe it's a bit of hedging my happiness. Like if that bet doesn't pay out, then it means United finished in the top four. I love that. But realistically, like I said, it wouldn't be, if Ronaldo leaves and we don't finish in the top four, there's no problem with that whatsoever for me. So I think Arsenal are just a little bit, they're just a tiny step ahead in terms of the rebuild that has been occurring. United have been dragging their feet before they really made any significant moves. We were just trying to hold on to the past, but now we're building for the future. You guys, you could say you've been rebuilding for 15, 20 years or so, but this feels like the closest you've actually come to not winning anything, but getting in the top four for sure. So, and maybe it's just good luck with timing and stuff because United's a little weak right now, and so is Chelsea. But I like the bet. If I were you, I would do it for sure.
There we go.
I'm actually surprised. I would have guessed it probably would have been better odds, really. But
yeah. Well, maybe it's tightened up in the last few days, but we'll have to watch this space. Now, Zach, when you're not talking footy, what other sports do you handicap and cover over the important nonsense?
Primarily just footy now. I started out in football, so I would discuss the waivers back in the day, and then NFC North. So got to keep up with the Lions, which was great. And then just fantasy waiver pickups throughout the season. So no coincidence, I won 2 of my leagues, 2 out of 3. But I don't really care about the third one anyway. So I won 2 of the most important leagues I'm in. So obviously it was very beneficial for me.
There we go. So Do yourself a favor if you want to learn a little something more outside of this show. Get to importantnonsense.com, sign up for our Patreon, join our Discord, and we might even help you with some bets on a Saturday morning if we wake up early enough.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to get those in that Friday night, no doubt about it.
That's the move. Get your bets in on the Friday night, get the better odds, and then wake up to a win on Saturday morning.
And if it's not going your way, just go back to sleep. That's how it works.
And that's the stuff. Make sure you have a good weekend. Now, Zach, what's your take on some of the other teams in the Premier League this season?
Huh. Well, let's take a quick look here. So some teams, should we go optimistic or pessimistic here? You wanna
Let's start high and then we'll work our way down. Let's start optimistic first.
So, I mean, what are your thoughts on? Let me ask you, what do you think about Newcastle this season? What do you think their expectations will be, and where do you think that they'll land?
I think they expect to be in the top half. I think they expect to be top 10 for sure. I mean, well, upper top 10. They might need another signing or two maybe in January to get there, but they're definitely making the moves in that direction. I think Bruno Guimaraes, the Brazilian, is going to have a big impact. They've still got Alex Maximilian. Yeah. Chris Wood is in the mix as well, and they really worked on their defense last transfer window. So this is really a consolidation phase for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they will be. I think some teams will fall off a little bit. So, like Leicester, I mean, I'm not sure where they finished last season. It was not good. I think they're the only team in the entire Premier League that has not made a single signing. So I think they will continue to drop off. Not really sure what their plan is over there. If anything I'm hearing is still about them potentially selling some of their players.
Mm-hmm.
Not seeing anything about bringing anybody in. So that would concern me, but maybe they're just planning on dropping out at like a top 8, top 10 team and just being like one of those 15 to 18 kind of, or 17 type teams, that are still not really in concern of getting relegated, but not super ambitious in terms of qualifying for any kind of European spot.
Right.
I think Everton is still very much in trouble. They barely survived last season. They lost that player that led them to survival.
Richarlison
did not really replace him. Got a solid defender in James Tarkowski, very experienced in the Premier League, but that's a center back, and he's not going to score. And he might score a few goals, but he's not gonna save you the way that Richarlison did. So I'm worried about Everton. I do like Crystal Palace a lot, although they did lose one of my favorite players was Conor Gallagher. So he was just Energizer Bunny, just electric, just all over the pitch, defensively contributing, offensively contributing. But he was on loan from Chelsea, so he's now back at Chelsea. I think they were trying to sign him, but I don't think Chelsea saw his performances and said, we're going to let him go. So hopefully he plays a lot for Chelsea this season. And then I do like Aston Villa. I think that they've made some huge signings this transfer window. Diego Carlos is a center back who's won the Europa League. They added who was the other?
Hang on.
Big name. I'm trying to remember.
I mean, they still got Coutinho and Ollie Watkins as well up top. So
Coutinho, they signed Coutinho officially. I think he joined them on loan last season, and then they did sign him officially, which is huge because he was lighting it up when he joined them and was scoring goals. I think he scored 3 goals in his first 3 games or 4 games or something like that. It's great to see him back in the Premier League. Also great to see him just playing at a high level again. And he has not really reached the peaks that he found at Liverpool before he left. So yeah, there's really so many teams. Brighton is a team that I'm extremely curious in. They did finally add a striker. What I loved about the striker, I have no clue what his name is. I've never heard of him in my life, but Brighton don't really make bad signings. Everybody that they sign has a purpose. They have a system in place. Graham Potter's the manager there. He's fantastic. They play lovely footy. If you watch them, it's never a boring game. Their problem was putting the ball in the net, and I am I believe that signing the new striker is going to have a great season, and I think that's going to be the missing piece of the puzzle of Brighton, and so I'm excited to see what they do. Manchester United play them first game of the season, so I will not be hoping that striker scores in the first week, but he can score as much as he wants after that.
No.
And then goes also Leeds United is another team I'm very interested to watch. As an American, I think if you don't already know, all Americans are Leeds United fans from now on, or at least
Mhm.
in the near future, because we have two brand new Americans in the Premier League for the first time, but they're two instrumental players on our national team, Brendan Aronson and Tyler Adams. Tyler Adams coming from Germany, RB Leipzig, very solid player, can play 5 different positions over the pitch. Um, Huge for our national team. He's a lot of times the captain. And then Brandon Aronson is a little bit younger, but he's an attacking player. The coach, the manager there, Jesse March, is American, so lots of ties to the U.S. Will that be good? I hope so. If it's bad, that's going to be pretty embarrassing. But if they can be good and play good footy, get good results, that would be great for U.S. soccer. So excited to see what they do too.
For sure. Now let me just ask about the U.S. national team. As a fan, what are your expectations for them going into the World Cup? Are you looking to get out of the group? What are you expecting?
So for the U.S., it kind of right now it feels a little bit like how I feel with Manchester United because it's a little bit. I look at this World Cup. I do expect them to get out of the group. We got Scotland, Iran, and England. I do expect us to get out of the group. It's not going to be easy, but we would be favorited to. We'd probably finish second, is what the odds would say. But at the same time, I look at this World Cup. Do I expect us to win the World Cup? No, I don't think you can. Do I expect us? I would say just depends on who we. It's just luck of the draw. Like we could get lucky with who we end up playing in the first round of knockouts. We could get unlucky. We played Belgium the last time we were in knockouts. We almost, I mean, wouldn't say we almost beat them, but it was a close game. Anytime your goalie sets a record for most saves in a tournament, it probably means you weren't necessarily killing it that game, but
Mhm.
he kept us in it. We're a different team now. Like I don't see us being completely outplayed unless we're playing like maybe France or Brazil. Or I mean, there's a few teams that could probably outplay us, but for the most part, we should be hanging in these games. That's what I want to see. Definitely, even when we play England, I don't see us getting dominated in that game. I think it's going to be a pretty open game. Um, so it a little bit depends on who we play, but I'd like to see, if we can make it to the quarterfinals or the round of 16. Quarterfinals would be great. Round of 16 would be about right, I would say. And then looking forward, like the main reason I'm excited about the World Cup is primarily just to get all those, again, young team, probably one of the youngest teams in the entire World Cup. And they're all going to get this great experience of playing in a World Cup, less pressure. And then the following World Cup is going to be, as you know, North America. And that's one that we'd be looking at. Could we potentially win that? And I think that's 4 years, 5 years down the road. I think we could. I mean, we have so many players that are around 22, roughly, and 4 years from now is going to be about their prime, or reaching their prime. So it's just great timing for us. It's going to be a home tournament, so we'll see.
Okay. Watch this space. Now, I know you meant Wales. You said Scotland. I know you meant Wales,
Oh,
so
that is my bad.
it's all good. I don't want to
Even
upset
better.
my I don't want to upset my Scottish brethren up there. So
There we go. Yeah, that
there
probably
we
was not
go.
nice.
But
Okay.
the key for me, in my opinion, as an international observer in this is the U.S. players. They got to get minutes for their clubs. Like
Mhm.
Pulisic, the guy's his name's on my tip of the tongue. He plays for something Kekney, the guy that plays for Juventus.
Oh, Weston McKennie.
Yes, McKinney. Thank you.
Yep, yep, yep.
These guys need to be getting consistent minutes because that game against England, I believe it's on Thanksgiving. You don't want to come in cold. You don't want to come with just like practice legs. You want to have like match legs. So
100%.
many minutes as they can get, that'll put them in good stead. If they can get a point from that game, they can beat Iran, then the opportunities are there. Then Wales is doesn't really matter what happens. If they get a point from Wales, good. If not, it should still be in good stead because you're
Yeah,
expecting England to beat the other two teams,
right.
right? But if they don't beat England, then sorry, if they don't get a point against England, then there's more pressure on that Welsh game. So I guess that's
100%.
you want 4 or 5 points, and then you're in the mix to
You
get
should
out
be
of the group.
good. Yeah. If you can get really with a team like a juggernaut in your group, like if I was England, I'd be pretty happy with the group that they're in because there's not a group of death in the World Cup for me, but there are a lot of really really strong groups, and I would say if you're England, you got to be pretty happy with all three teams that you have in your group. So you're totally right. It helps a little bit when you have a juggernaut and you're like that second favorite team because you can take care of your business. Just trust that the juggernaut will take care of theirs. And then, yeah, if you can get 4 points in a situation like that, you should be in the clear. Um, Absolutely. And I agree what you were saying about the playing time. Like I said, I'm from North Texas. And so I saw Ricardo Pepe as he's a perfect example of United States needed a striker pretty solid everywhere else on the pitch. Pepe came in during World Cup qualifiers and was absolutely electric. Scored in debuts, got game-winning goals. Was great. Has this, so he's playing at FC Dallas. Was lighting up the MLS as well at the age of 18. Goes to Germany in January, and he went to Augsburg and has not gone well for him. Eventually, he wasn't even featuring on the team. He was just on the bench, and that's the opposite of what we needed. We needed him to go to Europe is great, but like you said, you got to get on the pitch. You got to get minutes. You got to score goals. If you're a striker, you got to get acclimated to that playing at that high of a level, or else. I mean, now he's on the outskirts of the team. He's kind of lost his position. People were saying at the time he's a lock to be our number 9, our striker, and now it's back up in the air just because he stopped playing. He got cold, and he's not at his top form anymore. So that's a concern I have because I would love to see him be our striker and carry us through. So
There we go. Now I got a question. Greg Berhalter is the manager for the U.S. Would you say that he knows his best 11 yet, or is he still trying to put that together right now?
I think he's definitely a lot closer to that. He's done so many experimentations, which is not a bad thing, especially like when you kind of have that time when we missed the World Cup last time around. So you have some time to take a step back and look at the team. And he made the decision to go young and start from the bottom. And so when you're doing that, like you're looking at players that are like he's probably looking at players between like 16 and 20 really at the time, and that's a period of their lives and any kind of football players' lives where there's a lot of moves going on. You're here one season, you're going somewhere else next season. You know, you're in the reserves now, and then you're playing on the first team a couple years later. So many moving parts that it's good for him to have tried out so many different players. Like I don't know the numbers, but I'd love to see how many debutants he's given like their first caps to. Sure, it's probably a mind staggering number, which is great because they're all going to camp, they're all playing together. He gets to see them up close. So I don't have any problems with the experimentations, but it is at the point now where he better have a really good idea of the starting 11. I think he does. We have had some injuries, which is obviously the last thing that you want. Miles Robinson is a center back in the MLS who's one of my favorite players on our national team. He tore his ACL or an Achilles or something like that, and he's going to be out for the World Cup, which is so now we have to replace him. He was going to be a lock at center back. Now there's an opening there, so outside of a situation like that with an injury, I think there are some fringe players like Brendan Aronson is one. Was he necessarily going to start? Maybe not. He might have been someone to bring off the bench later on in a game, but maybe this move to the Premier League and Leeds, if he does well, maybe he plays his way onto the starting 11. Gio Reyna is another player that on Dortmund, very young, but he at one point is probably a starter, and then he kind of got injured. That's when Brendan Aronson kind of took his spot on the team, and now he's a contender. So between the two of them, we're not really sure who's going to get the nod. It just kind of depends on who's getting minutes, which both of them are kind of questionable. They might both get a ton of minutes. One of them may, one of them may not. So I think that would play into who he picks. But I would say for the most part, he's probably got 9 out of 11 spots figured out.
Okay. All right. Well, it's getting closer. So there's one more international window before the World Cup in September. I think the US is playing a couple of games there, so I'm sure he'll have his answer at the end of that.
Less experiments now, then. Let's just figure this out. Put the right guys out there so that they can get some games to gel. Especially we cannot go into a World Cup without having like significant game time with the starting 11. So I do need that to happen in this next international break, but yeah, we still got some time.
There we go. And we still got some time on this show. So let's jump across the pond once again. We'll go back to England and we'll get into some predictions. The Premier League starts on Friday. So I know you gave your top three. You said City, Liverpool, and Tottenham. Are you happy with that? This is your chance to flip back if you want. Are you okay with that?
No, I'm not happy with it. I am okay with it though. Yeah. I just think that's what's going to happen. But yeah, like we talked about, for me, if Arsenal were to sneak in there, that would be it would be exciting to see that, just because that would mean that Arsenal are flying, and there's a lot of players I like on that team, and that would mean that they're doing really well. Gabriel Jesus, huge signing for Arsenal. He's a striker, one of my favorite players just because of FIFA. So can't not root for him. Smith Rowe, Saka, so many Martinelli, so many exciting players there. But I just think I do give Tottenham the edge in terms of managers. I'm a little sketched out on Arteta, but for that reason, I think the teams are pretty similar between Tottenham and Arsenal. I think the manager definitely gives them the edge. So I do feel good about that top three. Could potentially maybe see Chelsea just completely, throw a pie in my face and like be really good. I can't really see it. And then, Manchester United a lot of stars would have to align for Manchester United to sneak into the top three for sure.
Yeah. Honestly, I find it hard to disagree with that. I think City and Liverpool are in a class of their own, and then Tottenham they've definitely moved ahead. They showed signs of that last season, and there's nothing to suggest that they're going to fall back. If anything, they're going to go forward, and they're going to be very hard to push out of the top four, let alone a potential third spot. Now,
who's your top four? Who's the fourth?
I was trying to get away from this. I was trying to dodge this, and then you put me on the spot. Great, damn. I don't want to jinx them. I do think Arsenal are the team that they're the best place to finish fourth. I'm not going to put money on this, but I think it's either them or it's going to be Chelsea. But as you said, Lukaku left. They brought in Sterling. Sterling, for me, is more of a winger than a number 9. Yeah. I'm not convinced that Havertz or Werner are going to get the goals that they need. So it's for me, it's Arsenal, but Arsenal by process of elimination, because United, I still think they have issues at the back. Maybe Ten Hag can be that different voice in the room to talk to guys like Maguire and Varane and have Lisandro Martinez integrate with them so that they are on the same page of set pieces. They're not looking at each other when the ball's in the back of the net, as you know. But
don't hurt. Yep.
So I guess that's how I eliminate Chelsea and United from the scheme of things. That's how I arrive with Arsenal. I do think that Arteta has the team playing more like his team. He's moved on the players that he didn't want.
Mm-hmm.
It is frustrating when players leave on a free or they leave for not much, but that is a legacy of the previous recruitment regime.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll be a bit more profitable with their business going forward. But on the pitch, he definitely has, like you said, that young squad playing. They're moving the ball around. Health is a key concern. Last season they missed the top four because they lost Kieran Tierney, they lost Tomiyasu at the back. They had a real patchwork back four, and that's how
They
they
did.
lost to Newcastle. That's how they dropped points at Palace. That's how they lost to Tottenham, and that cost in the top four. So
Yeah.
the key for me is staying healthy and also navigating through the Europa League as well. They're going to be playing on Thursday nights again. If they can do that, maybe if they have a nice cup run in the FA Cup and League Cup, that's always nice for the club.
Yep.
I'm sure Kroenke likes that. But top four should definitely be the goal. Get back to the Champions League, and then they can get more players that fit Arteta's system. So it's definitely possible right now. We'll see what happens after the World Cup. But Arsenal are my team to finish fourth, and I hope this
I
does
like
not.
it.
I
I think
hope
we
this
have.
does not.
Yeah, we got the same top four, so we got to be onto something here.
Yeah, great minds think alike. Now, who are your bottom three? Who are your three teams that are going back to the championship?
Yeah, so I think that was the other really interesting. When I was trying to figure out my ranks, it was difficult because there's not a team like a Burnley anymore that never was going to finish, or you would never expect them to finish in the top 10. You'd always kind of figure that they would be a bottom 10 team. Probably were for years and years and years. Maybe they had one season now if they were in the top 10. I can't. They were in the Premier League for a long time. But it feels like teams like that are a dying breed, and like
Mm.
now it's just so competitive. So I'm trying to figure out who I would have at the bottom three. I think there are a couple teams that have been around in the Premier League. I mean, Everton is in the conversation. They just haven't added anybody.
Mm-hmm.
They're potentially up there. Southampton, they play good footy, but they will also lose 9-0. And so any team that I think they lost 9-0 twice or 7-0. I think it was 9-0. Any team that's capable of losing that bad is also capable of getting relegated. They've also lost their main striker last season, Broha, who is also on loan from Chelsea. So actually, he's potentially a number 9 replacement for Lukaku, but we'll see. Wolverhampton, another team, good players, haven't done enough in the transfer window to rebuild and have lost some key players. Really just weren't impressing me with their style of play, and they were dropping a lot of games towards the end of the season. So those are teams that are on the cuff, but ultimately, I do think it's going to be the three new teams that came up. I think they're all going back down. And it's mainly just because there's not a team like a Burnley that is going to be there that would potentially go down instead of them. Like I could see things going really bad for Leeds. I could see the US thing not working out, and I could see them going down potentially, but maybe Brentford as well. But I do think Brentford. I trust the manager enough to do a lot with a little and keep them up. But I think Brentford will be in that. They'll probably be in the bottom four. Maybe Nottingham Forest could overtake Brentford, but I would say probably the three that are coming up are probably going back down.
All right. Well, I'll agree. Like Meatloaf said, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So we match on 2 of the teams. We disagree on one of them. So I got to agree. I do think Bournemouth are going back down.
Yeah.
Fulham, as we talked about before, they seem to enjoy this up and down cycle. So this is their down year coming up. But we'll see them in 2 years. So it's all good. They'll be back in the Premier
Yeah,
League in 2 years.
no
So
problem.
don't worry about it. But the team that I dissent with you on is Brentford. I think Brentford are the team that's going down. Everton are bad. I get it. They lost to Minnesota United in a friendly and they did not look good.
No, they didn't.
But I think they're going to be so bad that Frank Lampard will disappear at some point and they'll bring someone else in, maybe Wayne Rooney or someone, and they will find a way to survive because that's the Everton way. They find a way. It's almost like Liverpool wants them to stay in the Premier League just so they can beat them twice a year. But
Not a bad call. They normally take points off of United too, so that works for Liverpool as well.
There we go. So Everton survives. Leeds, let's call it the Ted Lasso effect, but Leeds will be fine. They'll stay up.
Yeah, I think
Brentford,
they will.
I'm not sure Brentford. I know they got Ivan Toney. He's on his thing, but I'm not sure they've done enough to improve this season to stay ahead. And I
Yeah,
think on the flip side, I think those 12 or so signings that Nottingham Forest have made,
yeah,
I think that puts them in really good stead to not only stay up, but be in that 10 to 15 range in terms of placings when it's all said and done.
yeah. I'd love that. I would love that. I think you're definitely onto something there. I could easily see that happening. I wish I would have seen more of Nottingham Forest last year, although maybe it's a new team this season, but it seems like they're clearly onto something. With Brentford, it's really I look less at the second half of the season and more at the first half of the season. So we'll see that they were on fire to start the season last year. I don't know if you remember. They played a
Oh, how can
team.
mate? They played Arsenal in week one. How can I forget? They beat
Yeah,
Arsenal
yeah.
2 or 3-0. I haven't
And it
forgotten.
was it was not a close game. You would have said if they took away the jerseys and the scoreboard, you would have said Arsenal was the team that just got promoted if you just watched that game. And they did the
Mhm.
same thing to Chelsea. I think Chelsea got a tie out of the game, but they absolutely dominated. And this is a team Chelsea just won the Champions League the year before, and Brentford has taken it to them. So I kind of I go towards more of the beginning, the first half, and I hope that that year of experience, they're not going to be the same team that they ended. I think they just ran out of gas a little bit, but now they know how the Premier League works and how long of a season it is, and all of those things. I wish they had more signings, but I think it's Thomas Frank, and he's the manager there, and he seems like he's brilliant, and so that's what gives them the edge for me over Nottingham Forest. But I do get where you're coming from.
Fair enough. Now you touched on Southampton just then with last season of Roja. He's no longer in the mix as you mentioned, so that leads me to another value bet that I like. James Ward-Prowse. He's pretty prolific. He's often getting in there for the Saints. James Ward-Prowse to be the top Southampton goal scorer. There's a book offering plus 232. For me, that's good value.
Oh yeah, I mean he's probably the best free kick taker in the entire league. I'm assuming he's on their spot kicks, their penalties. So anyone, when you're looking at something like that, uh, whoever's taking the penalties, if you know who it is, and if they have that good of odds, I mean, is he the favorite to? Do you know if he's the favorite to?
He's actually not, funnily enough. So let me dial this up for our audience, but he wasn't the favorite for Southampton top goal scorer. The favorite is actually
See that
another.
surprised me already. I would have assumed he'd be because I can't even think of who. Oh, maybe Che Adams.
Yeah, Che Adams is the favorite, and
Okay.
then Ward Prowse is just behind him.
Okay. Yeah. Those two, I definitely love that bet. I mean, I think, like you said, he's kind of a box to box kind of guy. So he will get in there, and anyone who has the kind of technique that he has, like on free kicks, I mean, it's worth just going to something fun to do, going on YouTube and looking up his free kicks because they're just beautiful, like perfect. And anyone who's got that kind of technique is someone that you would want when the ball is coming out of the box, out of the 18, off of like a corner or something, and he's right there just patrolling and just ready to absolutely rip that thing into the net. And you will see him do that several times this season. So goals like that, he'll get his free kicks, he'll get the penalties. I love that bet. It's good odds too.
There we go. Now I should point out, I said based in Toronto. If you're watching us from Canada and you haven't got access to the Premier League on your TV yet, we can help you. Go to importantnonsense.com. We have a special with our partner Fubo.tv, who are the official suppliers of the Premier League for Canadian viewers, and we'll hook you up with a nice sign up so you can subscribe and watch the Premier League all season round. So go to importantnonsense.com and look for our Fubo TV offer. Now, Getting back to some goal scorer specials. United are your team, so I had to bring them up.
Of course.
Marcus Rashford to be the top United goal scorer, plus 900. Yes or no?
Ooh. So that's one of those stars that would be aligning. That's one of those stars that would be aligning. If that bet hits, then United have finished above Arsenal in the Premier League and are potentially in the top four. Just put it that way. Because if Rashford is the top goal scorer and if Ronaldo is still there, then that means Rashford is actually scoring a ton of goals. And that would be absolutely fantastic. Would I bet on that? I couldn't. I couldn't yet. It would be, and that's why the odds are so good, is because it's a huge leap of faith. Um, it would involve Ten Hag really getting the best out of him, which is very possible, but I got to see it to believe it kind of deal. Um, that being said, plus 900, that's probably worth it alone just because of how good those odds are, and there is a great, absolute, just incredible player in there, and we just haven't seen it for the last like year and a half or so. But I mean, going back to when he was breaking onto the scene, he's 17 years old, scored his first like 3 games. And remember, like it was yesterday, got 2 goals against Arsenal to win the game. He's like a 17-year-old. He's like a week. He's been on the team for a week, and he's scoring game winners against Arsenal. It's just incredible. Um, Amazing player. And so you don't want to see it. It's tough because he's also obviously one of the best just guys. Like what a good human he is, you know. So you always wanted to see him do well, and you want to see him improve too. You know, like get better year after year. And so it did. I think he's had some injuries, also a lot of turmoil at the club, new managers every other season basically. Now it seems like there's a lot more stability, a really good manager that's going to get the best out of him. It's possible. I don't know if I wouldn't put your house on it, but if you want, you know, a big payout on a bet, I mean, it could easily happen.
Yeah, I got to clarify. This is just to be the top scorer at his club, not even in the league. Just be
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
most.
yeah. No,
I
that's
mean, for me, this is based on Ronaldo leaving because Ronaldo is the
yeah.
favorite. Ronaldo's like minus 110 because he takes penalties and he demands the ball. Fine, I get all of that, but I'm
Mhm.
just not convinced that Ronaldo's hanging around.
Yeah, fair. If Ronaldo leaves, I bet those odds go down to like plus 550 or 600 or something like that. So
There we go.
you just got some good value in that, and that could happen what until the end of August. Ronaldo could leave, and I would say if you ask me if is Ronaldo leaving or staying, I would say he's probably leaving. That would be my guess. If he stays, I'd be surprised a little bit.
Yeah,
So
I think he does force his way out somehow. I don't know how he does it, but I think he finds a way out. I got one more club goal scorer for you to chew over.
all right.
Jared Bowen to be West Ham's top goal scorer in 2023, plus 232. Yay or nay?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, the only issue I could see with that one is kind of like you were talking about with Mitrovic at Fulham is if he is on fire like that, I wonder if a team does not swoop in for him in January. And so
Yeah.
at that point, that kind of I'm sure you would probably lose. I mean, I guess he could rack up enough goals before January, like maybe he would still be the top goal scorer at the end of the season. But that would be the only thing I could see getting in the way of that. And then obviously, Antonio is their current striker, and he's one of those guys that seems like he's really, really, really good for a third or a half of a season and not the full season. So
Hmm.
he could kind of run out of steam. I could see Bowen being more of a consistently good goal scorer for them. So I like that bet for sure.
Yeah, I can see Bowen having a hot start. I just feel like he finished really strong towards the end of 2022. And also, again, World Cup year. Mr. Southgate's watching. He wants to be on that trip to Qatar. He's going to want to bang him in early.
Mm-hmm.
I believe West Ham has Man City to begin with. So that'd be
I believe
interesting.
that's right. Yeah.
So if he gets a goal this weekend, he's off to a good start. And City's backline isn't what it used to be, but
Yep.
we'll get to that in a second. Who is your league Golden Boot winner for 2023?
Yeah, Holland. Yeah, I think it's Holland, and I think Holland, if he plays over 34 games, I think there's a good chance that he sets the Premier League record of goals in a season in his first season. I think he's ready to do that like right now. That's how
Wow.
big I am on Holland. I think he's
Wow.
going to be absolutely incredible. My only thing with him is if he does get hurt, but like you said, with the World Cup, that's a period of time for him to recover. It's not a period of time that he could get injured during, too, which is nice. It's almost like a little mini summer for him,
Yeah.
which only just makes me more confident that he's just going to pop off this season. So, yeah, for me, it's Holland, and it's kind of not that close either. I mean, who are like you got Kane, you got Son, Salah. Those are probably like some of the top guys, and all of them have brand new goal scorers added to their team to just take goals away from them. But Holland is literally there to get all the goals. The entire team is built in a way that he's like the end of what they're trying to do is him putting the ball in the back of the net. It's all built to funnel into him. So
Hmm.
yeah, and he's really good at putting the ball into the net. And I think we're going to see a lot of that this season.
That is true. I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm actually going to take Mo Salah myself, plus 377. He also gets the World Cup break because Egypt didn't make it.
True.
But having Sadio Mane exit stage left to Germany, I know Darwin Nunez has arrived on the scene, but I just feel like he'll become more of a focal point. He has experience in the league already. He knows where to find his spot in the box, position himself, and he does take spot kicks. So
Yeah.
I'm sure Haaland will probably take spot kicks to City as well, but Salah for me,
Yeah.
I would give him the nudge because of the experience of playing in the league already.
Yeah, he does have the experience, and I think in that game it was the first fixture that City played Liverpool in October of last season. Salah scored one of the most beautiful goals I've ever seen in my entire life, and I will say, even in the Community Shield, Salah is probably the most electric player on the pitch, and that's the two best teams in the league right there. And so, if you're the best player on that pitch, that says a lot. But I don't know. I think maybe it's the United in me. I've been a little bit, don't want to say like separated from United, but maybe in this way I'm very typical United fan. I just kind of feel like Liverpool is set to take a step back. And so I feel like that includes like part of that step back is probably Salah taking a step back, but he is a great player. There's no reason for me to be saying that right now at this point in time, but it's just a feeling I have. So I just think it's Holland for me. But fair enough on Mo. He's amazing.
All right, we'll watch this space throughout the season. We'll have to make a note of it. I'm sure our producer Mason is noting some of these top
Yeah,
takes,
he's
and
jotting all this down.
he'll use them against us as the season goes
Yeah.
on. Now, match week one, Arsenal they start off against Palace, so I would have a couple of quick bets to throw at you for week one. So for me, I like Gabriel Jesus, the new signing. I like him to get a goal anytime. It's plus 165. I also like both teams to score because I'm not 100% sure that Arsenal are the defensive unit that we've been seeing in the preseason. I do feel
Mhm.
like Patrick Vieira can get one against his old boys,
Yeah.
so I like both teams to score on that one. Looking ahead to Saturday, I like Son, uh, Human Son to get a goal anytime for Spurs. That is plus 111. Anytime a Spurs striker has plus odds, I'm going to take a look at that, whether that be Kane or Son, because they're
Hmm.
so prolific. And then when Jared Bowen goes to face City, I like both teams to score there, minus 128. I do think City's backline isn't what it used to be. It's something that we're not talking about as much. They
Hmm.
lost Zinchenko, they lost a couple of other guys, and Nathan Naki, if I'm not mistaken. They're not the same team
Yeah.
defensively. So I do think West Ham get one. They may not get the result, but they get one, and City get one as well. Anything that stands out for you for week one?
Where's that Arsenal game at?
It is at Crystal Palace, South London. So
Definitely like both teams scoring in that one for sure. I am really big on Vieira and Crystal Palace. I think potentially this season, maybe not a step forward, but I think enough teams in the Premier League have taken a step forward that not taking a step forward is kind of taking a step forward because the other teams are, and so kind of complicated.
right, I hear what you're saying.
I like the way that they play. Very open, very attacking. They want to score goals. They want to possess the ball, but they want to be attacking. I think they're pretty solid defensively. I would probably say Arsenal will get a result out of that game, but I would not be surprised if Crystal Palace got a win. Arsenal's been in really good form. Specifically, Jesus has been in incredible form since he has made the switch. So I love that bet. But as I said, I love that man as well. West Ham, I think West Ham would have preferred that they would have played City like the first weekend of September or something like that.
Right.
I feel like it is not fun to play City in the first game of the season just because they have so many players and Pep is such a good manager that, and also like they know that every game, City know better than anybody that every single game is so crucial to winning a title, and that is what they are here to do. But West Ham have been known to disappoint City in the past, and just always plays them very well. So I think if it was a month later, I would like West Ham's odds a little bit more in that game. But no, week one, I think City have that one. So will West Ham score? Maybe. I think City have enough returning players. They have a full back line, I believe. I don't know. I don't know if John. I think John Stones is fine. I know Nathan Ake was rumored to Chelsea, but that has not happened yet. He's still on City, and he's been playing a lot in the preseason. So maybe that's a bit of a weak area, but he has been getting minutes. If he were to play, I think that'd be fine. But yeah, I mean, it's possible. I definitely think City will win that game, but I think West Ham could get a goal for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, there we go. We got 3 or 4 picks for you for week one, and we're gonna track these. So when you come back next week, we're gonna show you how we went. Now, moving on to the Bundesliga. The Bundesliga also returns this week. We had the DFB, like their version of the we had their version of the Community Shield when Bayern Munich beat Leipzig. I believe they beat them 5-3. So it's a nice high scoring game out there. What are your thoughts on the Bundesliga for this season?
Yeah, more of the same in terms of who the winner is going to be. I think Bayern will be going for 11 in a row or 12 in a row, and I don't think anybody is going to be putting a stop to that. I could see in the next few years one team really building up and growing to eventually be a more consistent threat to Bayern Munich than we've ever seen in the Bundesliga. So I'm excited for that, but it's not happening now. And I do see Bayern definitely winning whatever it is, the 11th in a row or 12th in a row. Whatever they're trying to do, they're going to do it, I think, in the German league.
It is a tough situation, isn't it? When you lose Robert Lewandowski, but then you go ahead and add Sadio Mane and Matthijs de Ligt. Mm-hmm. It's tough times out there in Munich. My heart goes out to them.
So much pain over there. No, yeah, they're set, and I think so. Dortmund is another team, that are the last team to have won, I believe, outside of Bayern. But they're not. They just lost Holland, and that is a huge loss for them. Obviously, they have. I can't say a replacement. They got Adeyemi from the Austrian league. I think at Salzburg.
Oh yeah.
But he's not quite the same player as Holland. He's more of a probably position-wise, he's probably more of a Mo Salah than he is a Holland. So not a direct replacement. And to be honest, Dortmund wasn't even really that close to Bayern anyway with Holland. So for me, I think the closest threat that they have is RB Leipzig.
Mm-hmm.
That's the team that I think is really building up quickly. Just kind of just seems to be a Red Bull thing of doing things. Um, and I think over the next few years, that could be a team that, could actually really compete with Bayern on a domestic level.
There we go. The fighting energy drinks, the Red
Yeah.
Bulls of Leipzig. Now I gotta ask, what's your favorite energy drink? Is it Red Bull? Is it Monster? Is it 5 Hour Energy? What's Zach drinking when he needs to keep his energy up?
It used to be 5 hour energy every now and then, but I think you reach a point where the jitters that you get, I don't know. I don't take any finals anymore, so I don't need to take that. But I do like the green monsters. That's what I would used to do at work and get my 5 minute break, green monster, and what was it Reese's Pieces, and I just go to town on
Oh,
those, and those are great. Yeah.
oh, yo, just give me the Reese's Pieces. I I
Yeah,
I get high off that. The Reese's Pieces, yes
absolutely.
sir, yes sir. That's what's up. Now, you mentioned jitters. So let's talk about teams to finish second in the Bundesliga. You mentioned both of them, the two front runners. Dortmund are plus 110, and the fighting energy drinks of Leipzig, Red Bull Leipzig, are plus 200.
Yeah,
So
give
you see
me
some
the
value in
fighting
that?
energy drinks. Absolutely. Yeah. I would go with the fighting energy drinks for sure over Dortmund. And I did see those odds, and that really stuck out to me because I think that's excluding Bayern, basically. Who's going to win the league if Bayern's not in the league, kind of deal. Who's getting second? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I love Leipzig with that. They didn't lose. There's a lot of talk. Their best player, Christopher Nkunku, absolutely incredible last season. One
Mm-hmm.
of the best players in all of Europe across all the leagues. I watched a lot of his games and his play, and he's incredible. And I'm kind of shocked that he signed a new deal with Leipzig. For me, that was like a big statement from the club is we're not going to let him go. As a matter of fact, we're going to sign him on a new deal for however many more years and keep him here, or at least get paid a lot more money next off season if someone does come in for him. But the fact that he stayed makes me believe in their project because I think he was very heavily linked to PSG. But I'm a huge fan of that player. They didn't lose him. They didn't lose any key names. They added some good players, not maybe star names, but players that are very strong in the Bundesliga. So players that are familiar with the league. They just got brought into their team, made them a stronger team. So for me, I love that bet plus 200 for them to get second. That is something that I think is great. I'd lock that in.
All right. All right. All right. All right. Now, do you have any rumblings or thoughts on the golden boot for the Bundesliga now that Lewandowski is gone to Spain?
I think the question there would be, can Nkunku do it again? Can he have a season like he had last season, or was last season, was it one of those where it was like throwing a tennis ball into the ocean kind of deal, just so easy to everything that he was shooting was going in. I mean, he had some goals like that maybe wouldn't go in on another day, but went in on this day, situations like that. Um, he would be an interesting bet. I would assume he would not be the favorite, or maybe not in the top two or three. So his odds might be really good. Trying to think of who else. So maybe a Sadio
Maybe,
Mane.
yep, Mane, or maybe, I don't know. Leroy Sané, they kind of rotate him a little bit. Nabry was always in the mix.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
who
just for
else?
me. They're not. Maybe Mane would be more of a striker for Bayern, but
Yeah,
he did do that at Liverpool at a high level too. He was great when he was playing a striker. So
yeah.
maybe that's what Bayern saw in him. But if they're playing him out wide, I mean, those are all players that are kind of out wide. So I'm not really sure who's going to be the Lewandowski replacement. Maybe it's Thomas Muller. Um, Maybe he would be a decent option as well at the Golden Boot. Because yes, I would agree, a player on Bayern is probably a good bet, but maybe Lewandowski's goals are a little bit too spread out. The
Mm,
replacement goals are too spread out for any one player to hugely benefit from his leaving. But
hmm
I don't know. You got the odds on you?
Um, not red. Hang on, let me dial them up. I like Muller for most assists, by the way. He's always a guy
Yeah.
that can dish pretty well. Let me see what I can dial up for Germany. Uh, I also like Kostic. Oh, no, not Kostic. Bora from Frankfurt. He was part of the Europa League run. He's a pretty prolific striker last season for them.
On
So
Frankfurt?
yeah.
Yeah.
hmm So that's a name that is worth looking out for. But just looking at
Also, yeah,
mm,
Marco Royce on Dortmund is a great player.
yeah,
He feels like he's kind of like, as you get older, if you're like a winger or a striker, as you get older, you kind of reach a point where you turn into more of a center mid or deeper on the pitch and less running and more using your wits and just being a solid passer, not losing the ball, things like that. So I feel like he might be dropping off a little bit with his goals, but maybe his assists go up.
yeah. So I've dialed it up for our audience. So the names there are some names we've mentioned already. So Sadio Mane is the favorite, and then
Uh,
he's followed by Patrick Schick,
oh,
the
yes.
Czech international.
Mm-hmm.
Nkunku's in there as well as Adeyemi. And then
Mm-hmm.
we got Andre Silva. So Andre
Yep.
Silva's the name to also
Leipzig.
consider. Yep.
Yep.
There's fighting energy drinks once again.
Yep.
Serge Gnabry's in there. Anthony Modeste. And then it starts to get a little bit long in terms of
Yeah,
the others.
yeah.
But
I think
those are some
Modeste.
names to consider for sure.
I like Patrick Schick a lot. One thing so he's on Leverkusen and a player who is in the Bundesliga and is absolutely incredible. Kai Havertz now. He's kind of Kai Havertz when he was younger. He was from Leverkusen as well,
Mm.
and he was extremely hyped up and was tearing the Bundesliga to shreds. A player who's the new Kai Havertz, and I would say maybe on a higher trajectory is Florian Verts. Sad thing with him is that he also tore his ACL towards the end of the season, I think like last May. So he's kind of in doubt to make it to the World Cup, which is really
Oh,
sad. He's like 19, 20 years old. He's German, if you couldn't tell by Florian Verts. Um, yeah, but he's German. But yeah, he's going to miss the World Cup unless he's able to come back early. But whenever he's playing on that Leverkusen side, they're a different team, and he absolutely feeds the rock to Patrick Schick, and he's really good at finishing. I'm surprised that he stayed on Leverkusen as well. Kind of a similar
mhm.
situation. I figured him and Nkunku would be leaving their clubs. Neither of them did, which bodes well for the Bundesliga. But yeah, I like Patrick Schick. What are his odds at?
So Patrick Schick was un momento, por favor.
If it's over 250, we love that.
Oh, you're gonna love it. You are gonna love what I'm gonna give you then. So you can get Patrick Schick. The lowest odds are out there at plus 500.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I like that a lot. I
There we
like that
go.
a lot. That's good.
Yes, yes, sir. I've loved doing this show with you, Zach. Is there anything else you wanted to share with our audience?
I mean, I just think that I was thinking about this earlier today. Just what a beautiful, beautiful time it is right now. It's the calm before the storm. This is the last week of any kind of boringness that you may be living your life through. All of these leagues are about to come back. And even when these leagues are returning, the Premier League's back this weekend. But I mean, that's exciting enough as it is. And then in the back of your head, we're just a few months away from the World Cup, which is just the pinnacle of sporting in general and across the entire world, potentially the galaxy, not sure. But I cannot wait for either of those two things. And so it's just going to be great times ahead. It's a beautiful time to be a fan of footy. And yeah, I'm just cannot wait for things to kick off. So excited.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, as much as it's cool to see preseason games and teams flying around the world, there's nothing better than seeing the teams in their own league, in their stadium, or at a rival stadium, playing for points, like games
Mm-hmm.
that count. I look forward to that this Friday. I hope that, unlike last season, Arsenal get some points, ideally 3 points, and they start the season with a bang.
Yeah.
I know your guys who are they playing again? United?
Brighton. Yeah, Brighton.
Right. So
It'll be
they're at
tough.
home. Yeah, it is going to be tough, but Eric Ten Hag, he seems like he's got a plan, and we'll see how it goes out there.
3 points, lock it in.
You heard it here first. 3 points, lock it in. Now we go. But no, we appreciate you having you on, Zach, and I definitely love talking footy with you.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate you watching and look forward to having you join us again next week.